Welcome to Food Shrinks.
Hey, I'm Molly Carmel,
I'm Clarissa Kennedy.
And I'm Molly Painschab.
and we are your food shrinks. We are three food addiction and eating disorder therapists who are real life friends, walking the walk, talking the talk. And on our show, we are sharing honest, funny, unfiltered conversations we talk about when no one is recording, except we're recording. So, welcome to our show, MP.
Yeah.
MP's rocking our
Hey.
topic today, fans.
Yeah. So I think something that I've been kind of rolling around in my brain a little bit, and it does come up in group from time to time, is this idea of like starting over or day one or whatever it might be. And this happens with like my traditional therapy clients. This happens like in our recovery community, where people are like on this roll. They feel like they've really got the cat by the tail. They're going. And then, something happens and there's like this real like devastation about having to quote start over again. Or we have situations where people really struggle to gain kind of that momentum. And so then they feel like they're doing day one over and over and over again. And so we end up having these conversations about, maybe being a little bit obsessed with starting over or like really like giving a lot of energy to day one over and over and over again, how we can kind of become entrenched in that cycle and what it would be like to not count days and some other things. So anyways, I was just thinking about that and I was wondering what you two thought about that kind of thing, because I know what my thoughts and opinions are on it and how I kind of navigate it with clients, but I was curious to know how you do it.
Well, I mean, I'd like to talk about how I do it personally because I guess I do it with clients, but
I was just
Yeah.
going to
How
say,
do you navigate this?
guilty.
Right.
I love a Monday. I
I
love a
love,
fresh month.
girl, I love a Monday. Like I love a
Oh,
pound of cocaine and sugar, I tell you.
I love a
Such a,
Monday. I love a fresh month. I love a
oh,
January.
I love a
Oh,
January. I know,
yes.
God, I know, it's like we have these jobs, but I'm such a sucker for diet culture. It's like
Yep.
diet culture is like forever chemicals, it just lives in my body. I remember when I was first healing from my eating disorder and I was doing it in the rooms of 12 step. God bless them for, holding me. And I just had this woman I was working with and I would, call her every day and be like, day one, it's day one, it's day one. And one day she was like, uh, you're not allowed to count days anymore. You're like literally addicted to starting over.
Mm-hmm.
We're addicted. And what I think is so interesting, and it's really, I don't know, some things hit and some things don't. And even in that like addicted haze, I was like, she's really onto something. Because I couldn't get any self-esteem traction, right? Like when I was focused on like the perfectionism. The thing about the food, I mean, I think there's some people in our industry that wouldn't agree with what I'm about to say, but those are not people I would like to work with. Like, you're never doing the food perfectly. And in fact,
Right.
as like very spiritual person, I actually think, you get into the relationship with the higher power by understanding how lovable and capable you are, even when you're making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. One more thing on that. I made a decision very early on in recovery, for this is my experience of it, that like I didn't want to live a life where food really ruled it. And I saw a lot of recoveries. And that's just my experience. So you
Yeah.
certainly can write me hate mail about this. I'm very open to it. I do love it. I love any mail. I love any attention. Um, but I saw these people, bringing their scales out to dinner and just being so particular and and I just felt like, well, I'm not going to stop eating sugar and flour for that to be my life. I'm going to do it so that I can like go on dates and go out to dinner and have my boundaries and have my experience of life. And the kind of big life I want to live is probably going to have me taking accidental bites or me taking intentional accidental bites or or me not following a plan, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like understood that if I was going to live in a frame of this perfectionism of what my day ones looked like, I was never going to be able to escape this thing.
Yeah. It's like procrastination hiding as motivation,
Mm.
right? Is
Wait,
like,
say more.
oh, well, it's just like if I have this, like tomorrow feels safer and
Mm.
it helps me deal with the discomfort that I have right now and gives me that like false safe, like sense of safety. And it also gives me, planning always gives me dopamine, right? So it's like I'm constantly taking out myself from that discomfort of like, this didn't go the way I hoped. I'm struggling in this moment. I don't want to stay with myself in this discomfort. So let's go to Monday me, who's got it all figured out. And Monday me, future me, is still today me. But I abandoned her every time I make that Monday plan.
I mean, I feel like I should pay you for the hour. That is so good.
As only because I'm an expert in it.
I know. It's just like I feel really changed by that information.
Right? But it's going from what's happening for me right now in my body and my emotional discomfort and going here, which feels safer.
That's your brain for those of you listening on
Yeah.
the podcast.
Oh, sorry, I'm pointing. Yeah, pointing to my head versus my heart and my body. And I don't know if I've said this on here before, but this elder in one of my courses said to me, on a windy day, the last place you want to be is at the top of the tree.
Oh,
And I'm pointing to the head. And that's where we go, right? Rather than in the trunk, which is our body. And that's our soul and what's safe for us. And so in those moments when I'm in those distress, I leave myself and I go to my head, because then I can come up with a plan and I don't have to feel what I'm feeling. And I don't have to actually comfort myself and say, it's okay. We just made a mistake. It's like I just automatically switch into planning mode, which feels safer.
that's good.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know if lucky is the right word, or I don't know. I kind of equate this to, it's so funny as you were sharing, Clarissa and Molly, like I was thinking about like when my parents got divorced, I was never the kid that like blamed myself, because I know that happens, right? Where kids really take on that
Yeah.
responsibility and like, oh, if I would have been better, like dad wouldn't have left, or vice versa, whatever. And like I was never that kid. Like never did it occur to me that like I caused my parents to split. And and I think about that like when it comes to my recovery, like never once did it occur to me that I needed to like start documenting or like measuring how many days I was actively putting into getting better in some way, shape, or form. And maybe some of that is because like I started like my mental health wellness journey, whatever recovery story, like long before I ever looked at like being a possibility, or whatever it might be. And so this idea of counting days has always just felt so like restrictive to me, like in that very like strangling, like you're going to like put these parameters on me. And so then like my rebel comes out and then it's like the big F you. I tell people all the time, like in my mind, I walk around with two middle fingers out to the world, like constantly.
That's exactly how I
Constantly.
see you. That's
Me
exactly
too.
In my mind, I am flipping the bird to
Yeah.
everybody and anybody that wants to come
You
at
have
me.
IDGAF energy for sure.
Yeah.
We can't say what that means, but you guys
Yeah.
can Google
But
it.
yeah, and I think that's just like that's survival, but I also think that that's kind of like part of my purpose this time around on earth for me is to really walk this path of my own. And so because I try to honor my own path so much, it makes it so much easier then for me to really honor other people's paths. And so when I can see some people get frustrated, like you said, Molly, like there are people in our industry who probably don't want to hear some of this, right? Where it's like, I don't require anybody to count days. I'm not going to count days. Why would I ask somebody else to do it? I am literally not going to ask anybody else to do anything that I'm not willing to do. I'm not willing to weigh and measure my food at a restaurant. I'm not willing to count days. I'm not willing to do those things because to me, that just doesn't feel like free or big, like I'm living my big life. And that's kind of always my goal. And so when you're thinking about like, oh, I loved a Monday, I loved a new month, I loved all these things, for me, that just felt so, and I'm like, if I'm going to change my behavior, I'm going to start in this moment. Like whatever that is, it's not going to be like a plan. It's going to be like, oh, what little thing am I going to do today that would even like move me in that direction? And certainly those weren't like my conscious thoughts, 20 years ago, but certainly today I'm just like, oh yeah, I want something to be different. Oh, I want to like make sure that I make my bed daily. I never used to make my bed daily. I make my bed daily. Or we had talked about in here about like flossing our teeth one time, and and after that episode, I now consistently floss my teeth because I think about like my 12-year-old who has braces has to like use a water pick and floss her teeth and brush her teeth like multiple times a day. If my 12-year-old can do it, at 42, I can freaking do it, right? Like it's just a matter of like intentional practice.
It's so funny. I thought about it this morning too, as it was like a murder scene in my mouth. And I was like,
can I just remind you that the reason I floss my teeth twice a day is because I had 3 root canals in in a month span. It's fear-based, which is not usually how people change. But
well, right. Well, but there is though the painful point of it, right? But and sometimes, right, like sometimes it just happens. But I guess like for me, the way that I've always, or I guess the way that I've kind of done it is like it has to be my idea, and then I just kind of start doing it. Am I perfect in it? No. Do I struggle with it sometimes? Absolutely. But then instead of like getting really angry with myself, I'm kind of like, it's this whole like, my husband taught me this a really long time ago. We're high school sweethearts. So I've spent more of my life with my husband than I spent without him. And one of the things he always used to say to me is like, it's for science, Molly. Like, serious. There's like, it's not that serious. Like, do a thing, like collect some data, figure out if it works. If it doesn't, adjust, right? And so now it's just kind of like, oh, it's for science. Like, it's either going to work out or it's not, and I can make little adjustments. You're not failing. You're just collecting information that it's either this works or this doesn't work. And so that's kind of how I've done this whole like idea of like day one or starting over. There is no day one or starting over for me. It's just keep moving forward. It's just, keep making these shifts.
Wait, what about this thing that would come up for me if I was listening to this podcast, which is, I think you guys already said it, but it's like, then how do I motivate myself? Because I think what people believe, and I actually agree, there's people in my community, I was like, I'm 5 years broken up with sugar. And I'm like, that's amazing. I'm coming up on 14 years of being sober. It's crazy, right? And it's like, I like that day count. I don't know. And I'm coming up on like 16 years in October of like, imperfect, no sugar, no flour. But, I did it by not counting days. I actually looked up one day and saw that I had 54 days or something. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to start protecting this. That actually is what happened, is when I stopped counting days is when I actually got to focus. Like, what's the thing they say, focus on the process, lose the solution, focus on the solution, lose the process. Like I was so focused on the outcome, focus on the outcome.
Yeah. Right.
Focus on the outcome, lose the process, focus on the process. Can someone help me? I'm having a perimenopausal.
Yeah, no, you're nailing it, right? It's just like if we're always focused on like weight in this, in this field or in this like recovery world, we lose like the actual recovery piece of it. And when we focus on our recovery, if we, if we are somebody who needs to release weight, it can release. Exactly.
That's what happened for me. I think somebody listening to be like, well, what do I do if I don't count days? Like, how am I going to, and it's like, I don't know. In my experience, honestly, that minute that woman relieved me of counting days, I just put my nose down, everything the nutritionist, the team asked me to do. And I woke up one day and it was like 54 days in. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've done something for 54 days. Like, this is insane. I'd never done anything. And then I really got some esteem in. But I think it's like people really believe, and for some it works, that if it's not working for you, because that's what the second part of the question was, Molly, that which is like, well, then how do we do things if we're not, like, sometimes counting days can end up being terrible, but if you're not like having some accountability, then how are you to even get anything done? I think that second part's important.
And for me, like you had asked, like, what about motivation? So I want to start there where like, for me, like, it's that reminder that like motivation is not the thing that actually gets you going. You do the thing and then motivation comes. So there's like new energy, novel experience energy that we have. And this is a real thing. We have this novel experience and it's like, it gets us excited. And that's the thing that kind of gets the train moving, so to speak. But it's
Can you use a formal example? Like I just...
Like novel energy is things like, okay, like, I just took a pottery class or something, right? And you're like, whoa, like it's your first time putting the clay on the wheel and whatever, and it's like really fun, and you have a really good experience. You make your first bowl, and it doesn't like flop, whatever it might be. That experience gives you dopamine, it gives you joy, it gives you like excitement. And so then you are motivated to maybe take more classes or go learn a different form of ceramics or whatever it might be. So you weren't motivated first to go take that class. You were just like, heck yeah, I'll take a chance. My girlfriends want to go do this art class together or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So motivation comes next. So that's what I want to say about the motivation. But like you were saying, that accountability piece, I think that there are other ways to quote measure, whether or not these things are working. There are other data points than just, weight loss or how many days I can like string together where it's perfect abstinence or whatever it might be. I also want to know, like, what is your mood like? Are you, do you have brain fog? Did you have brain fog before? And what is it like now? What are your relationships like? Are you going out and doing social things that maybe you would have said no to before because you were worried about this, that, or the other thing? So I just think that there are more ways to kind of measure, and it doesn't even have to do with accountability. I guess the way I frame it is not accountability. I frame it more as like, again, like, is this something that's working for me instead of somebody else's dogma? What is my data?
Yeah.
And how do
Mm-hmm.
I use that to move
Dogma
myself
versus
in the
data
direction I
is
want to go?
good, Queen.
Yeah.
Hey, it's time for us to do our takeaways. I have a billion, but does anyone want to go first?
I just have so much going on in my head right now. It's like I feel like I'm going to explode. I think that for me, I used to be somebody who was super punitive. And it was because, like, my parents would also reinforce this specifically with my drinking. And it was like, oh, if you get to 1 year, they had this like turtle in the garden they were going to give me as this reward. And it was just so much pressure. And so now when I frame my own recovery, it is, when did I decide to start like making my towards moves towards the best life I could have? So putting down alcohol, putting down sugar or flour. And I've been doing that for so many years. Yeah, I might have got a DUI during it. I might have, binge and purged while it was happening, but I was always heading in that direction. And how many people can actually say that for themselves, that they've been actively working towards their best life? And that's the journey, because recovery is messy. Recovery involves, imperfect moments. It involves days that don't go as planned because life doesn't go as planned. And so that is just going to be part of the story. And if you can not leave yourself during those difficult moments and continue on, like, even though I've had some really like hard things happen during all those recovery years, most of those days, 90%, maybe 95% of those days have been abstinent and have been incredible.
Yeah, it's a
Don't
great
let the
one.
5% hold you back.
Oh, I just think this has been so therapeutic for me, guys. I have so many things going on right now that I'm sort of I wouldn't have said it before we started today, but I'm really trying to do so many new things, and I'm putting them off, and and I need to have the right time, and I need to have the right space, and I need to make sure it looks right. And I'm like sitting here, and so my takeaway today is really what, well, first of all, dogma versus data is just like, you should go get that trademarked. But yeah, this idea that like right now, like what I have is right now, and anything else I'm doing is my fear, creating the same way it was with day one. I was terrified. I couldn't get well. And when I was in that addiction to starting over, I was doing nothing but reinforcing and proving to myself that I couldn't get well. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the same thing with what's going on in my life right now. It's like, can I do, like that data that says just set 30-minute timer, right? Can I just set a 10-minute timer today and put 10 minutes investing into these things that I really know I want to start? Can I just do that? and get out of this perfectionistic, sabotaging thing that I can fall into, that my fear can fall into so quickly. So this has been a very useful session for me today, food drinks.
Yay.
I love that.
Yay. Well, my final takeaway is just that everybody has their own way of doing it. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors, right? Like you can't just look at somebody and know what's going on and how they're kind of seeing the world and formulating it and like what they're, trying to figure out, do I do this? Do I do that? Is this day one? Whatever it might be. And so my big takeaway is just, maybe stay curious with yourself, stay gentle with yourself, know that there's more than one way to do it, that you don't have to count days and you do not have to be perfect in order to be in recovery and on your way to wellness. So if you want to hear more about this topic or any other topic, if you have questions for us, if you have anything you want us to address on an episode, please just email us at asktheshrinks@foodshrinks.com.
And if you loved what we had to say today and you want to hear more and you have some time, go give us a 5-star rating or whatever rating you think we deserve, and share it with your friends. Let us know, write comments. We always respond to the comments in any of the podcast app, and we love to hear from you. So we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Food Shrinks. Quick reminder, this podcast isn't a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider for guidance suited to your needs. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach others on the recovery journey. Take care and remember, freedom with food is possible. See you next time.